Well, I'm Siamecat. I love a good society-rumbling morality debate, and I was recently a part of one in this neat place called Court. Turns out I misread the reviews for that courthouse. I thought it was for the single-player versus multiplayer debate.
Let's find out how much of a pathetic introvert you are. Do you prefer single-player or multiplayer games? If all you play is multiplayer games, you truly know how to not be lonely and stuff. Playing games with friends can form some of the fondest memories, increase bonds, are those symptoms of a disease. Single-player games are more emotionally moving and impactful. How can you not cry at the end of Super Paper Mario? If you only play one or the other, you're locking yourself out of fantastic experiences. You can play single-player games anytime you want, but with multiplayer, you have to somehow have a few people in your immediate vicinity.
Good thing I can clone myself!
But if you want to play multiplayer games and you don't have anyone in your immediate vicinity, you can always delve into the territory of playing online with random people is a lost cause most of the time. There, I said it. All I have to say on the matter is the same old, a lot of communities are made up of toxic tryhards who hate fun. Handheld systems are of course primarily for single-player games for obvious reasons. An advantage of in-person multiplayer on handhelds is that you get your own screen. There is some gray area between single-player genres and multiplayer genres. Platformers are generally still considered single-player because that's how they started out, which is also technically true of all genres. Puzzle, action, adventure, life simulation, and RPGs especially are all on the single-player end of the spectrum, though Nintendo has found ways to force multiplayer into nearly every one of them. When playing multiplayer games, the last thing you want to see is long story cutscenes.
Just get to the smashing already!
You just don't play multiplayer games for the story, but story thrives in single-player games. You can really get invested in what happens next, finding hidden lore, stuff like that. It's exactly what makes some single-player experiences just as memorable as multiplayer ones. Single-player games can also be very immersive and atmospheric. When even the simple act of walking around and talking to NPCs is engaging, that's when you know it's a great single-player experience. RPGs are great, but for me, the best example of this is Super Mario Sunshine. Isle Delfino is up there with the best locations in gaming. It's a fun place to relax and do nothing in. Speaking of relaxing and cozy experiences, Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing is a crippling life simulation game that operates on a real-time clock, so there's holidays and stuff. There is technically multiplayer in Animal Crossing, but all you can really do is give someone a tour of your town and then what, a staring contest? And that leads directly into my next point. Multiplayer modes in single-player games and vice versa are almost always very forced.
And what's the word? Oh yeah!
Some examples of forced multiplayer modes include Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, Super Mario Odyssey, and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. The Galaxies and Odyssey are 3D platformers, but instead of playable characters with the same moveset, the second player only gets to help out player 1 in small ways. Yes, because little siblings who have no idea what they're doing are definitely going to appreciate not being able to do anything anyway. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker does have equal characters, but at this point, you're adding multiplayer to a linear puzzle game. As for good examples, there's Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon and Luigi's Mansion 3. It's all about strategically planning who clears what rooms. This mode had a lot more thought put into it than the other ones I've mentioned. Multiplayer genres can be many things. The most common ones tend to be party, sports, racing, and fighting games. Mario Kart, Mario Party, Mario Sports, and Wii Sports are all amazing multiplayer-focused series from Nintendo. If you were expecting me to talk extensively about games that have nothing to do with Nintendo, you must be lost. How did you get here? What wrong turn did you take? Let's learn the 3 steps to playing multiplayer games. Step 1. Have friends. As long as you're not lurking under a 5 below in Antarctica, you should be fine. Step 2. Choose your character. This step is easy. Just pick whoever speaks to you on a personal level. But if the character you choose spells Pink Gold Peach, you're doing it wrong. Step 3. Get really angry when someone says you got outplayed by RNG. Mario Kart is so fast-paced and chaotic with its wacky track designs, items, and especially the great equalizer, the blue shell. Mario Party is complete randomness with skill-based minigames. It's the game to take seriously. If you're looking for the most accessible multiplayer game, there's always Wii Sports. Swing the Wiimote to swing the golf cup. It's logic! Single-player modes in multiplayer games and vice versa are almost always very forced.
And what's the word? Oh, I ran out of paper.
Single-player modes, also known as story modes, are normally just small campaigns of CPU matches, which is fine, but at that point, why not just play something more substantial?
And the award for Best Single Player in a Multiplayer Game goes to... Game of the Year 2009. Yeah, not again.
There are some neat objectives to complete in every sport. But the reason I'm even mentioning Wii Sports Resort at all is because Island Flyover exists. Wow, it's been over a year since I last spoke those 5 syllables in order. Island Flyover is a single-player exclusive game where you can just fly anywhere you want, which usually ends up being the volcano. Woohoo Island might even be a more immersive location than Isle Delfino. That is such an impressive accomplishment for a multiplayer game. Now there is one game I've played that is a complete outlier. It doesn't fit into single player or multiplayer enough for us to determine which one it even is. You might be able to guess what game this is. It's Super Mario 3D World. 3D World is what I like to call a hybrid.
Crossbreeding!
It was designed to be just as good of an experience no matter how many people are playing, and that decision paid off. The main reason 3D World is a great multiplayer game and New Super Mario Bros. Isn't is probably just because it's 3D, so you won't get in each other's way nearly as often. Both single-player and multiplayer games have an important place in the industry. It's interesting to see how single-player games continue to improve and still up being largely unnoticed, and how every time someone comes up with a unique and creative idea for a multiplayer game, it becomes the next big trend for 6 months. But multiplayer games to me will always be defined by everyone sitting on the couch and screaming at blue shells.
But the question we're all wondering is, which one do you prefer? I should really consider buying fourth wall insurance.